Good one. I think we can go ahead and kick it off now. Welcome, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today for the Ivanti Neurons for Service Mapping webinar powered by Virima. We appreciate it, you guys joining us and taking time out of your busy schedules. This particular webinar is hosted by Ivanti, Virima, and Latest Solutions. Just really quick, guys, what we decided to do that we thought would be a lot easier to digest if we broke out our webinar series into 3 sessions, starting today, the next one starting on May 3rd, and the last one on June 7th. Your presenters today will be myself, Darren Dorsey, VP of Sales with Latest Solutions, and also Franco Powers, the Director of Solutions Engineering with Virima. I just want to state up front, the housekeeping, I apologize for not having my camera on, but I'm having a latency issue, and because of that, I didn't want my voice to be garbled. With that being said, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Really quick, our agenda today is pretty straightforward. The introduction. My bad, folks. Forgive me. I didn't know that I was still muted. Welcome again to the Ivanti Neurons for Service Mapping. I had gone through this great soliloquy and didn't know that I was still muted. Unmuted.
Hey, Darren, no, you're good. We lost you on the second slide.
Okay. Wonder why he keeps doing that. All right.
So right here.
We're good here? Thank you.
Thank you.
So did we get through the agenda really quick? If not, really quick, guys. Quick intros. We're going to do a quick overview of the Ivanti Neurons for Service Mapping, of course, powered by Virima. We'll get into the demo, the real reason that everyone has joined us today, and then we'll talk about the next steps towards the end. Quickly, a little bit about who we are. We are an Ivanti and Virima partner. We've been around since 2011. We're actually based here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Our workforce is remote throughout the United States. So we cover it from coast to coast. With that being said, let's just do a really quick overview. We know that the business world around us is forever changing, and the need to keep pace becomes more challenging. As the business demands increase, so does the need to support them. Without a clear and documented understanding of the entire IT asset estate and the interrelationships, it is much more difficult to manage system issues or even plan for and execute successful change activities, and also ensure that everything is properly secured. With the addition of service mapping, you can now discover and track IT applications and its components and outline how each connects to the business services. Service mapping also helps change the mindset by charting services provided rather than just solely focusing on specifics in the infrastructure. With that said, I want to talk about, just really briefly, about 5 of the key benefits of incorporating service mapping into your environment. The first, of course, is the security of vulnerabilities. You now have the ability to identify crucial and high risk services that require your immediate remediation. Second on the list is faster response times. And I can't remember a recent history where we've had conversations with CIOs or director of ITs that didn't have this as a high priority on their list. With real-time scanning, you can now automate the creation of any incidents prioritize issues, and drive the appropriate responses needed to resolve the problem. Third benefit is cost. Now that you have full visibility, it's much easier to identify the underperforming assets. It also allows you to reallocate resources used for monitoring the environment to something more value added like enhancing the services. It also allows the auditors to capture the costs associated with supporting each one of those services. The fourth is improved risk management. Most IT departments are reluctant to make changes due to the uncertainty and the impact to the business. With service mapping, you can now evaluate the risk of making the change and predict the outcomes based on past performances, not to mention the security risks exposed from undetected or tracked devices. Last but not least, of course, is now having the ability to go from being always in reactive mode, but now you can become more proactive with the integration of service mapping into your ITSM environment. This allows the service desk operators to better prioritize and assign technicians to repair the issues and make the necessary adjustments as needed. With that being said, in conclusion, a clear understanding of the entire IT asset estate and the interrelationships that define the services, it's infinitely easier to manage system issues, plan for and execute activities, and ensure everything is secured. In other words, you now get the opportunity to be more intentional about how you go about doing your day-to-day business. I said I'd be brief on my monologue. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Franco. Franco, you now have the con.
Okay, thanks. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, you should see my screen. Get this thing out of the way. Is there a way to make this smaller, this bar, or no? I'm a Teams guy, not a Zoom guy. If not, I'll just...
another screen.
There we go. Okay. All right, that's cool. All right. Well, hello everyone. So I am going to just do a quick drive-by. It's 30. Now I've got 22 minutes, so I'm going to run through the service mapping piece of this. And I've already staged, some of my screens. I'm inside of a business service map. I went into our CMDB, this is powered by Virima. So obviously we have a CMDB, and I went into a record and then clicked on the business service map. So this is what you're seeing here in this business service map view. Zoom in. And what we're looking at is an entry point of a SQL Server 11. It is a Windows server. And I can see that there are a lot of relationships going on here with regards to this ecosystem. So when I right click on SAP CRM, I can see it's an enterprise service. And there are two important software items that actually are installed on all of these HPUX boxes that make part of this ecosystem. So, if you've been around the block, you know that SAP is a lot bigger than just two software packages. There's going to be a heck of a lot more. So this is the beginning of a service map that is coming to fruition. But what we're also seeing here, just by entering into the SQL 11 at a depth of 3, we're seeing ITSM overlays. And what these are an exclamation and the double arrows. So an exclamation in black is we have an active incident. And this incident is an ISM. So when I click into this device and look at its record, I will see that there's an incident there. Same thing for the change. Now this change has already occurred. So this is a past change, a completed change. It's black. So I know that it's a past change, but it has not aged out yet. So, in the spirit of knowing what is going on in this ecosystem, in this environment, I'll be able to see, that there's been a recent change in this environment. So I'm interested in what that change is before approving another change. And let's say, for example, if there was another change, well, we could see that there was a change that's already occurred on this SAP CRM as well. But if we had another environment or another server that had red arrows, that would indicate that there was an active change. And if I'm approving that, I'm going to want to interrogate this map a little further and decide if I'm going to approve that particular change. Same thing would happen from a security perspective. It just depends on what hat you're wearing, maybe evergreening an environment. It doesn't matter. You have this data at your fingerprints, and you can do what you need to do and make those decisions based on what you're going to, see within this ecosystem. And this is just one view. But before I go into the other views, I want to pivot really quick and go into the record. So this record was quickly opened by just springboarding into the record itself, and I opened it in another tab. So this is the record. ITSM, now I will preface that Ivanti, the SEs are in here a lot. So there's a lot of change going on when we talk about what we're going to see in here. So this looks good. We have the incident. Looks like there's 4 incidents in here. I'm going to click on one of them, and this should actually take me into Virima's to our Ivanti Neurons, our ISM. And let me just log in there really quick. Hopefully they didn't change the password on me. Yep, we're in. Okay, great. So now that we're in there, we should be taken straight to this record, and we'll go in there in just a second. So this is the view from an ITSM perspective inside of the Virima visual, so it's the visualization of the incidents, the visualization of the changes now being seen as the actual record. So these are the records that correlate to those icons. Now, as you can imagine, you wouldn't want 4, so we have 4 incidents. You wouldn't expect to see 4 exclamations. That would be insane. I mean, it'd just be a complete clutter, okay? So yeah, so let's go in there. Let's follow this. So let's go in as an admin, select my role, and we'll follow this link into ISM. Now, while that is loading, I want to change this view. So this is where you will live mostly. If we're fortunate enough to earn your business, this is where you will appreciate your ecosystems, but you're also going to want to look at the communication view, look at the application dependency mapping view, even the network view. And if I have time, I'll come back to those in just a minute. But the affected business application view is the second place where you will spend time. And this is a point in time map. Again, we've entered in through the SQL 11 because, we know that there was a change and we know that there was an incident, and maybe, we're looking at something that's going on with this SAP CRM. And so in this case, what else is happening? Well, what if, now typically there are some down arrows that are going to pop up here. So if some of these servers were down when we last scanned, you would see those here. So a use case here would be, okay, this is a point in time scan, but I want to know what it looks like now. And I've been told I can rescan right now. So I'm going to rescan this entire environment, and that way I can get an immediate picture of what this looks like. And so you don't have to leave the screen. You just make your selections. I selected the client. The requirement to stand this up is to have a server provisioned within your data center. And it could be virtual, it could be physical. It's going to hold the credentials that are going to communicate with the scanning process, which is very simple. It's ICMP. Hey, are you there? Yes, a ping returned. Great. Does this credential work? Is this port open? Yes, it's open. And this credential works. Start scanning. It's just very basic. It's a very basic interaction from machine to machine. Literally knocking on a door and, hey, will you let me in? And here's my secret code, and please do. And there you go. So you'll start seeing that. So as you can see, the environment, excuse me for one second. Getting destroyed by my allergies today. I apologize, folks. Don't get overwhelmed with the data. The data is here for a reason, and we're showing it to you for a reason because it's important and it's part of the story. But you do have the opportunity to dial it back if you want to. So you could start filtering if you need to based on blueprints, based on relationships, etc. Okay. Number two, socialize the data. You're probably thinking, okay, this is a great picture. Fantastic. What do I do with it? Well, you're going to most likely download it. Download it as an image, or download it as an Excel spreadsheet and socialize it, or further review it and further socialize it, maybe even in a meeting. So it just depends on the use case and what you're going to be doing. Let's really quickly jump back up to, we got 16 after, looking in good shape here. So communications view. The communications view is a fantastic view, and I'll tell you why. Because this is where it tells us what we don't know about. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's what we don't know. And that is that we don't know anything about this IP. We know that it's communicating, it's receiving communication from SQL 11 outbound 135 to a destination port of 65003. But what is this? Now, there could be a couple of reasons. One, it's out of scope and we never scan that subnet. Two, we scanned the subnet and it failed. And it needs to be, it's an exception, a scan exception, and it needs to be resolved. Or three, we didn't scan it and, it's just out there. So in this case, you could, let's say you had 130 of these, which it will happen. You get to a point in your scanning where you declare that your scanning has been done. You have all of your scope has been addressed, and you are now on this cadence where you are scanning weekly. And now you're at a point where you're like, well, gosh, we still have a lot of what we call infant CIs. Ivanti can, sometimes calls these ghost records. We have all these ghost records still. Why do we have so many? And what can we do about it? Well, first thing is you could scan them. Okay, so you could actually, if there were 135 here, you could just fire off a quick scan and see what's going on. The other option is the other thing that you could do in addition to that is view the snapshots. Maybe security's interested in this, saying, what is the story here? Why, has this SQL always been talking to these 135 machines that are with public IPs? Well, let's find out. So you would click on view the snapshots. I don't think there are any snapshots for this one. We'll see. But if there are, we'll be able to see the dates. There aren't for this one. But if there were, we would go into another view, and then we would actually, in the select actions, we would see dates. And you could go back in time and see the progression of the communication flow for these servers. So you're essentially, and there's also two reports. Now it's important to note, just a quick star here, we do have reporting. The reporting is to support discovery and to support the service mapping. Your system of record is going to be in ISM, okay? So this is where you're going to see your data, and this is where you're going to appreciate your data, okay? So any type of dashboard report, for example, if I say like the server-to-server communications authorized report and server-to-server communications unauthorized report, those reports will be on a dashboard and you will see them, but they're in support. It's important to note that they are, oops, wrong window. It's important to note that they are in support of this particular, work effort. So they're not going to be, if you have other types of reports that you want to get into, you're going to want to go, run those within ISM when we talk about data. Okay. So we are in ISM, we are looking at SQL 11, and we came in from within the ITSM overlay link, the record link. And I want to just point your attention to some of these links that we have here. Service map. So we click on the service map, we can see the ISM service map, but it's not going to be as rich as the service map that you see in Virima itself with the overlays. So we'll kick it back over to infrastructure view. The second link that you see when you go back to the tab is the Virima asset. Oh, did that not show anything? Hold on, let me go back there. I'm walking over myself. So it looks like there's an error here with this. Again, like I said, the SEs for Ivanti are always in here, slashing and hacking. So you would have some boxes show up. Your product, the ISM product. For some of you on the call that have ISM, for those that don't, they're very, very flat boxes with text inside them. So Virima asset. So why is there a Virima asset and a Virima BSM? Because out of the box, you get a set a set amount of attributes and properties and their values from Virima sent to ISM, but we get a lot of data. We get a lot of machine data. So in that case, what's going to happen is the why it's doing this. Just give me a second here. We get a lot of data, so we don't send all of the data. That's the short of it. And because we don't send all of the data, oh, this is their internal, their links are messed up. Hey, we'll make a note if you don't mind. For these Ivanti demos, we need to level set with Ivanti on these because they're changing the links.
We're
It
good.
looks like,
Continue.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
good.
So we'll just do that. Oh, you guys take care of that. We'll get that fixed. Long story short, these links are easily updated, and when you click on them, I would expect this to send me back into the BSM map for SQL 11. I mean, literally just pops back in there. Same thing is going to happen when you click on the Virima asset. Let's just try it. Maybe this link wasn't updated and see if it takes us back to the record. And it looks like it's going to maybe. And so what it's going to do is it's going to take me into, it didn't either because it's pointing to the INT because we are pointing straight to the service mapping. So it'll take me to the record set. Now, what's the purpose? Well, you're going to be able to see all of the properties. So if there's a property that hasn't been set over, you're going to come in here and you're going to see it. Now, what do these properties look like? What are we sending? So let's go into the admin panel and look at the integration piece. So the integration piece is very, very vanilla. I mean, it's mapping, pitcher catcher. We're throwing and ISM is catching. So in the Ivanti mappings, what you'll see is all of the different blueprints. We call them blueprints. So a blueprint for us is ACI type. So when I do Windows Server, we should see 2 Windows servers. They've got 3 set up here. I say 2 because one should be going to virtual server and the other one should be going to server. So I'll click on one of these and we'll have a look and see what this looks like. So blueprint on the Virima side equals Windows Server, and the Ivanti CI type is computer, and then it goes into the server subtype. Okay. All right, let's close out of that. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the Ivanti property mappings. Not only can you map the property mappings, but you can also send over. So you can send over a pre-populate a field for all intents and purposes and send it over. Another thing you can do is, so the gist here is there isn't a constraint for you to have a property field selected for Virima in order to still send data over and actually update data. So in this case, let's say status, and we should expect to see a pick list. And when we hit the drop down, so we're going after production. So we'd hit prod, and so now this is going to say production for all of these Windows servers. Obviously, you've got dev in there too, so you probably wouldn't do that, but I just want to show the ability to be able to select from a pick list and add correlators. We'll get into that. If there's other interests, we'll talk about. Though I don't want to get into the weeds of that. How do you set up this integration? Okay, let's show you that real quick. So that is where you enter the credentials for the Ivanti mapping. So these are the mappings, and then we click on the Ivanti credentials. It's going to be your domain URL, and you would fire up a key for us, and then we would paste that in there. Okay, so it's very straightforward, very straightforward. All right, 5 minutes left. Let's go back. Do you guys want to leave some time for questions? Have there been questions going in the chat, or can I pivot over to the dashboard?
No, I think that's a good point though, right? So if anybody does have any questions, feel free to place those in chat and we'll go ahead and answer them. And if anybody has any availability to stay further and afterwards, we will go through and review those.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'll be available in the recording as well.
Okay, perfect. So what do you get from the scan? Because we have time to do a quick drive-by on this. This is machine data. So we don't ever get user data. So we're talking machine to machine. What are you about? What do you have? What's running? But also peppered in here is the opportunity to inject human intelligence. So you don't have to go out and hire a developer to do this. It is all no code. It's either importing or manually adding properties, and even detail sections as well. In this case, they're showcasing transformation. and they're showcasing life cycle information, meaning that maybe a particular customer that Ivanti was showcasing this to was saying, we're in the middle of transforming and moving to the cloud, or we're a data center and we have many customers and we want to track all this data in the CMDB. Fantastic. So you can do that and actually import that data as well. We also have the opportunity to import data. So let's say you've got a Department of Defense rack, and it's untouchable, but you want it to be part of ecosystems. Well, just go to the import data file module, grab the download file that is a template that shows you, what you need in that template, and then import it, re-import it, and those are going to be part of the ecosystem. Okay, so operating system, system info, and then you can see the data down here. What else is under the hood? That is under the components. Components are going to be installed software, hard drives, and everything in between up to IP connections. MMC certificates are super popular with customers because obviously they expire. So in this case, they're not running SSH, so they didn't get the certificates, but you would have the certificates here with that. Windows updates is also another popular data set, because you will get all of the data, all of the patches that have been applied to the machine, and all the available patches. Now, we're not saying that you should use our product to, patch these machines or, replace it, but think of it as an opportunity to double check, the systems that you are spending extravagant amounts of money on, and make sure that they are saying the same thing. Okay. Storage disks, all of that's what you'd expect to see. Software instances and installed software. This is where you're going to see all of your software. Boy, they really nuked this machine, folks. Let me just hop on another one really quick if I have time, but I'm gonna have to level set with these guys. But anyways, yeah, so this is going to give you all of your software that's installed on there, etc. Now, I want to finish on the left side here really quick. We've got 2 minutes left. Think of this as it's the report card / driver's license view almost, right? Well, what is it? What's its name, date of birth, all that stuff, IP address. What about the last seen on? And also, there's a confidence level. This server has not been seen in a while. You can configure the automation and the AI, okay, the models, to say, hey, at 45 days, confidence level very low, and when it is very low, check it weekly and set the disposition of this machine to decommed, retired, whatever, and then open a ticket as a scream test, and let's see who screams, right? And figure out, why do you have so many, you've got 10 servers this week that are showing, and this is, assuming that scans work. Scans are working. This is gone. It's, the ping is not coming back. Okay. So you can do that with the automation. There's lots of automation that's baked in. If you want to see that, we can have a deep dive into into that as well. I'm hoping this one wasn't nuked. Yeah, it looks like. There we go. Okay, so software instances, we're starting to see the data. Installed software, show me my tabs, and there we go. We've got Microsoft and we have uncategorized, and so you can drill down into these records as well. Also, there's symmetry across the board with regards to ingesting the data visually. You can personalize the columns and the UI. So this isn't all the data. There's more. You can add that data here as you would in the CMDB view as well. Okay. All right. So as we finish off the last minute here, we will go into the dashboard, and hopefully this has not been manipulated at all. So here are the CIs grouped by blueprint. We have assets, my CIs up at the top. These are all drillable. It's very wide. You could blow it out. You can export it. You've got options there. Open incidents. If you had integration and you wanted to use this dashboard, but you wouldn't do that because you've got ISM, GeoMap, infrastructure summary. Again, someone here has named this DC migration metrics. This could be named whatever you want. It's an executive summary of your data environment. Again, for discovery, totally use it. But once you're done with discovery, get back into into ISM, into Ivanti for your data sets. This would be for discovery and to appreciate it and show how it's progressing. But you could use it, with discovery for other types of activities, disaster recovery, business continuity, or even transformations as we're seeing there. Okay, end of life reports. I wouldn't do an end of life report in here. I would do that inside of Ivanti as well. Okay, just kind of showing the different options though, the different views. Software query is part of the service mapping. That would definitely be one that you would want to use because you're going to be able to query every single piece of software. Log4j, where is it? We're having a problem again. Tell me every machine that's running Log4j. No problem. Show you in about 2 minutes. And you can do that. And visually with a map. Okay. Questions? Okay.
And actually, Franco, I think that's a
Yep.
great spot here to go ahead and we'll wrap up here. We did get a couple questions. I think Darren wants to just do a quick wrap up, and I think we're good to go. And again, thank you everyone for joining. If you do got to jump, I know we are running a minute or two over. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll go ahead, Darren, take it from here, please. If you're talking, Darren, we can't hear you.
Thank you guys again for joining. If it happens when you use 2 mics, I couldn't get unmuted here. But as far as next steps are concerned, we definitely look forward to scheduling any in-depth demos. If you'd like to see the product in more depth, please don't hesitate to reach out to your Virima team, your Ivanti team, or the latest solutions team. Again, my name is Darren Dorsey. You can also reach Gary Lyons. There's our contact information on the bottom. And we will actually be sharing the recording. So thank you all again very much for joining the webinar series, Ivanti Neurons for Service Mapping. Thank you.